This was in Mangalore, and she had come from Mysore with a few volunteers from Mysore. So in the morning when we went for the games, there were a few new people, and there was this one person who was everywhere, who was doing all these long frisbee throws with Sadhguru, who was in the ball game everywhere, who was pointedly bent upon getting Sadhguru out. Until then, nobody knew who she was. At the end of the program, Sadhguru introduced her to all of us as a Isha Yoga teacher.
And that's the time she was working in a bank. She was so aligned to Sadhguru and always being around him. I remember how she shared about her marriage. When I asked Viji, how did it all happen? She said that when she met Sadhguru, in that very first meet, we knew each other. That's it, and that's marriage for me.
It was a very simple wedding in a small Shiva temple in Irpur Falls.
At that time, Sadhguru was, he was developing a farm. And everything that happened in the farm, she would know, she would be there whenever she could. He would spend half the month in his farm, another half the month he would teach a class, either in Hyderabad or in Mangalore or Coimbatore or Tirupur or one of these towns. Every weekend, Vijay would travel to the initiation from Mysore. When whoever knew Sadhguru or Viji, they always knew them as Jaggi and Viji. They were always together everywhere in everything that they did.
They nurtured each other, played together, traveled extensively like gypsies. And such was their companionship.
She did yoga only because it means something to me. She didn't do yoga for her health, she didn't do yoga for her well-being, she didn't care about her well-being. She did yoga only because it means something to me. I'm talking about it, so she was doing it. Any number of times she openly spoke about it to people. She wanted to do something that means something to me. For Viji, who is my wife, but most of the time she more existed as my child than my wife because she was like that. But still we had a very engaging and engrossed kind of relationship all the time. She was like my shadow all the time, 12 years, she just was everywhere that I was. She organizes the yoga program, she goes around, works throughout the day, she does everything.
Every time that she saw Sadhguru off, it's not that she will say bye and she'll go back to whatever she was doing. She has to see him get onto the vehicle, she has to see him start, she has to wave, and she has to keep waving until he is out of sight. Even after 10-12 years after marriage, every day, almost every day this situation is happening. She was very deeply devoted to Sadhguru as a person. She also constantly maintained an overt posture that she had nothing to do with spirituality. She was only interested in Sadhguru the person, who happened to be her husband, and that was her only interest. But one can't exist around Sadhguru unless in one way or the other one is deeply committed to one's own spiritual growth. Even though she said that she's not on the spiritual path, it's not for her and all that, I think constantly, right from the beginning, she couldn't help but to make progress on this path. Few moments and few incidents that I saw in Sadhguru. I mean, in my own life, these moments have had such deep impact. This must have happened with Viji continuously in so many ways, which obviously had big impact. She would go to any extent to kind of stand up for something. Anything that was happening, she was there. Not because Sadhguru was there and she had to be there as a wife and things like that. No, she felt it because she was also equally wanting that good things happen with people and people benefit from Sadhguru and make use of it.
அது எவ்வளோ நாள் கழிச்சு வந்தாலும் அவ்வளோ ஞாபகம் வச்சு கேட்பாங்க. நீங்கள் வந்து பார்க்கலாம், அவர் வந்து பார்த்தார்ல, நீங்கள் ஏன் வரல அப்படிம்பாங்க.
இங்கே எல்லாருக்கிட்டையும் இவங்கக்கிட்ட பழகணும், இவங்கக்கிட்ட பழகக்கூடாது, அப்படி கிடையாது. ரொம்ப உரிமையோட இவ்வளோ அன்பாக இருப்பாங்க.
Like she is very soft in her heart. Like if somebody has to say something, she has no hesitation even to take a bangle and give it to them and to solve the problem. Very, very relatable and affectionate woman I have ever come across.
Just like 3 days, 2 days before I had to go to school, I'd be like, Amma, I need to do homework, I need to do homework. The last 3 days, I'd be writing with my right hand, she'd be writing something else with her left hand just to make it seem like it was my work.
At times, Sadhguru has made this clear to Viji in many ways that he never really, kind of uses this word or talks about it openly, but to her, he had communicated to her that his disciples, their well-being and what needs to happen to them, it was far more important than what his commitments were to her.
Swami Nirmalananda was somebody I knew for a long time. I have met him almost 20 years ago or more in a very strange kind of atmosphere, and ever since then, we've been little dallying with each other. 96 sometime early, we went to BR Hills, me and Viji went there once. Radhe also was there at that time. We were talking to him and he said, next year, January, when the Uttarayana comes, I want to leave. I asked him why. He said, I've lived as a yogi, but I don't want to live as a rogi. I want to die as a yogi. He was asking me, I really not clear about how to leave. He had built a small samadhi for himself. Will it work? What will happen? This and that. That's the first time I opened up to a completely different thing, and I spoke to him certain details about what is it that stops a person from leaving, what is it that makes a person leave. Viji was there, she was listening to all this and she burst out into tears and she cried and cried and cried. So I just ignored her and continued to speak to him. Then he was also weeping off and on and asking me questions and we went into great detail of many things which usually I've never spoken anywhere. We came down after meeting Nirmalananda, we just came, and just after that place, I parked and I knew she was in some kind of mood. I just stood on the road and it's an incredible view. So I just was standing on the road, Radhe was also playing around there. And she came and fell at my feet and said, I also want to do what he's doing. I was just trying to joke and try to sort of dismiss the whole thing. She was crying and she was saying, I want to go like him. I said, okay, are you willing to do the sadhana? You do it, let's see. I never thought she'll have the perseverance to stick on to it like forever. So I told her a few things, that you do these things, let me see how seriously you do. If things come up to that stage, we will see. From that day, she just went like, She was another person altogether. Suddenly, the last 8-9 months, she became all focused and like that. Because the way she was going, I saw she's going so intensely. And after 2-3 months, she even started talking confidently that she's going to leave in another… Then I tried to slow her down a little bit. And I said, what's the point now? All these 12 years of marriage, we were only traveling. Only now, just then, we just had a place to live. She could call her own and cook and do things, which meant a lot to her, I knew. So I said, what is the hurry? And the girl is just 7 years old. I said, things are working out well for you also, why now? So she said, right now my inside is feeling absolutely beautiful and outside everybody is wonderful to me. This is the time I want to leave. I don't know how long I'll be able to maintain this. All my life I've been confused, feels everything. Right now I'm in a space where I want to be. I want to live like this. So many times in my own ways I tried to slow her down a little bit. The next December came, 96 December. Then we knew Nirmalananda will leave. From there we went on Karma Yatra. This is the final lap of Dhyanalinga consecration. So I wanted to clear up a few things for people involved, so I took them on a 6-7 state tour.
I have nothing much to say. This 12 days trip is yeah, I certainly experienced tremendous energy, and I can say I've taken 1 or 2 steps towards my growth. And certainly it does help me to be a little more mature person, and I consider myself very lucky to… I only hope that I carry and be of some useful to everyone.
By now, after the Karma Yatra, she was all glowing like a full moon. People who saw those last few weeks, they could clearly notice she was like blown like a full moon. Then I had to tell them, she said she's going to go shortly. They wouldn't believe it. I said, that's how it is. December Paurnami onwards, she started serving the people. 3 Paurnami, she wanted to cook and serve and she wants to leave. Then on 21st, we dropped Radhe at school. And that's when she was talking to Radhe already that I won't be there after some time. The girl was just about fine, she didn't take that, and we came back 21st evening from Ooty. 23rd evening is when she left.
Around 8 in the morning, Sadhguru called me and asked me to be with Viji because she was on a certain sadhana. And that whole day I was with her, meditating and doing several other activities.
Shambho, 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 finished. It was… Just before that she went out, about 6:11, 6:12, that's the time. About 6 o'clock, she went out, she wanted a rose flower. So she asked one of the brahmacharis to get a rose flower. They ran to the Vanaprastha ashram, got the rose flower and came. She held the rose flower in her hand, Shambho, Shambho, Shambho. Just 7-8 minutes, it was over.
Shambho,
was only after 3 days while sitting for a meditation, it really struck me that she had known this coming.
It's like her Mahasamadhi is just a promise to me. So if you really, that's what you want, it's a possibility. Like if you're so intensely seeking something as an ultimate, you can attain it.
But definitely Viji's Mahasamadhi was a tremendous blow to my logical way of looking at life.
அது மாதிரி யாருமே பார்க்கல அவங்க. பட் வித்தின் அவ்வளோ தீர்வாக இருந்திருக்காங்க, தீவிரமாக இருந்திருக்காங்க.
The Mahasamadhi, of course, proves something like that. You know, what was not visible, what was not overtly visible to people's eyes, it's almost like something else worked on. Constantly something else was working with her, and all the time.
In the yogic traditions, held as a very sacred day, because many beings, either out of intent or just sucked into it, either chose or got induced into shedding their physical bodies on this day consciously. So many have done this in this tradition. Even here at Isha, we witnessed a great event for Viji, who had neither any sadhana behind her, nor did she have any great knowledge. With the simplicity of her emotion and the intensity of her focus towards what she wanted, this happened too effortlessly. The effortlessness which even accomplished yogis would go through a little bit of struggle to do such things. It happened too effortlessly. There are many ways to attain. Through pure energy or awareness or absolute selflessness or through devotion. Devotion I put last, but it's the quickest way. I put it last because the line between devotion and deception is so fine, a lot of people will miss it. As they get more and more overwhelmed with deeper and deeper bursts of energy within them, slowly they become devout. That's good. The wisest ones are always devotees. It's a different kind of wisdom which logical minds can never understand. They grasp life in a different way. Viji was bursts of devotion and confusion, devotion and confusion. When she held on to a devotional spell for long enough, she made it. That's been the way, that was her way too. So 3 things that she would have been very happy and proud to see was the glorious way in which the Analinga consecration happened in spite of her absence at that time, and of course everything else that is happening with Isha. And the last, but for her it wouldn't have been the least, is that her daughter she's become a young woman.